Today's question is, should I fear judgment? A few weeks ago, again, I preached on judgment. That prompted some introspection on behalf of people, which I think is appropriate. The question is, should I be living in fear that my life is going to be played on some, as I said in the sermon, a jumbotron, and everyone's going to see, every bad thing I did, every lie I told, everything I don't want people to know about is going to be on display. And so there's that sense. And then I also cited Matthew 25, which is where I said that I think the bigger concern ought to be, it's not the sins of commission, not the things that we committed, it's the sins of omission, the things we didn't do. And that's where the people are saying, when did we ever see you hungry or thirsty or tired or without clothes or needing shelter and not care for you? And Jesus says, when you didn't do it to the least of these, you didn't do it to me. And so that, I think, is, a sit-up straight moment and go, oh my goodness, I'm expected as a Christ follower to see Christ, to see God, to see a commandment to care for people when I see them. That can be very overwhelming. So, am I supposed to be excited about heaven and judgment because my sins have been forgiven and all this is going to be good? Or am I supposed to be in fear of judgment? Well, the answer is actually a little bit complicated. So what we see is that the Bible will repeatedly tell us what we're not to fear. Like, don't fear him. Don't fear those who are able to cause problems for you. Jesus, he says this after he's sending the 70 out to preach and teach, and he's telling them they're not supposed to take, any provisions, and he's instructing them on how they're to navigate the kind of challenges they're going to face. He says, look, don't fear those people who are able to destroy your body, but unable to destroy your soul. Instead, fear him who's able to destroy both body and soul in hell. And at that point, he's talking about God. And for that matter, so we're told not to fear these people. We're told to fear God. And that's a big refrain. I mean, that's sort of the book of Proverbs. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Now, when you push on that, you see that this is not the kind of fear that is, anxiety provoking. I can't move. I'm paralyzed by stress. It is something different than that. But it is a shaping, it is a motivating kind of impetus. Then we have other places where we see judgment. For instance, we get the whole parable of the talents, where the master, okay, so think God, the master is going away for a time. And he says to different servants, I'm going to give you this many talents. I'm going to give you lesser talents. I'm going to give you 1 talent. I'm going to go away. When I come back, I want to see what you've done. And the one that had 4 multiplies it and has 8. And the one that had 2 multiplies and has 4. The one that had 1, who interestingly was the one that said he feared the master. You are an exacting man, you reap where you don't sow. I was paralyzed, so I buried your talent in the ground. That's the one who gets in trouble. And so there's a suggestion in the context of judgment to say, I need to be a good steward with the things that God has entrusted to me. Everything on the asset side of the ledger that I have right now is on loan from God. Everything everywhere, except for my sin, right? Everything everywhere that I have is from God. And he's not given up rights to those things, right? The famous statement by Abram Kuyper, who says there's not one single solitary inch of the universe about which God does not say, mine, this is mine. So he owns everything. We are temporarily entrusted with his resources and assets, and we're expected to use those resources and assets in ways that line up with who he is. So look, there's a lot in here about judgment and fear, and what I want to say is it ought to prompt us to be living intentional lives. I think what the parable shows is that the question is not whether or not we should fear judgment. It's that whatever our fear of the God who can destroy both body and soul ought to be motivating us to live thoughtful lives that are directed around God and that are serving others. This shouldn't be a paralyzing anxiety kind of fear. And we can rest in the completed work of Jesus on our behalf. But that resting is not to be casual and careless. So there's a tension there. Do I fear judgment or not? Well, it depends upon what you're fearing when you think about that. Have a good day.